and we're on the prowl.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of On the Prowl, the Daily Princetonian's weekly sports telecast. My name is Vikram Rao, and I'm executive editor for sports. And I'm alongside Gabe Debenedetti, who is associate editor for sports. Hello, Gabe.
Hey, Vikram.
This week we don't have too much to talk about because most of our teams have wrapped up their seasons, but we do have a few teams still going. First off, the men's lacrosse team will be hosting Notre Dame this Sunday in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Last week, the Tigers defeated Cornell in the inaugural Ivy League tournament in the championship game, which was played on Cornell's campus. You might remember that the week before, Princeton had lost to Cornell here 10-9. Well, last week, Princeton went up to Cornell and won 10-9, this time in overtime. Gabe, what about the win? Getting it up at Cornell?
It really was quite a game. As you mentioned, they won in overtime with a Jack McBride goal with 1 second left in the overtime period.
Right.
At one point in the game, they were down by 5 goals, I believe. It was really, a comeback for the ages as far as college lacrosse goes. They had lost 3 straight to Cornell. Their first win against Cornell since 2008. This is one of the big rivalries in college lacrosse, and to see them pull out this win really does mean good things for the team moving forward, especially because they had been struggling up until that point.
Definitely. It was very good to go get that win on the road, I think, and shaking off the sort of monkey on the team's back about Cornell and not being able to beat the Big Red, giving the team a little bit of momentum heading into the postseason. Now, what's interesting this year about the postseason is that, as some of you might know, host sites for the second round of the NCAA tournament are actually assigned before the season starts. And to minimize travel costs, if a team that's designated as a host makes the tournament, they're sort of lined up in the bracket so that they would play at home in the second round if they win. So if Princeton beats Notre Dame, they'll in all likelihood be playing Maryland, who's the 3 seed in the tournament. Princeton is the 6 seed. Maryland is a good team, but despite being the lower seed, Princeton would actually host Maryland. They'd be wearing their road jerseys because they'd still technically be the road team, and Maryland would technically be the home team. But the game would take place here on campus. What are your thoughts on, potentially 2 home games before the Final Four?
Yeah, well, what we need to remember when thinking about that is that the Princeton Tigers cannot overlook Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is not one of the top teams in the country, but Princeton has struggled in recent weeks, losing to a not-so-wonderful Harvard side, for example.
Right.
They should be able to beat Notre Dame, especially coming off the momentum from the big Cornell win, but they really can't look past them. Now, if they do play Maryland, that will certainly be a game to watch, and hopefully lots of students will be able to make it. Maryland is a team that we don't play, and so we don't really know, during the regular season that is, so we don't really know what to expect out of the Terrapins. But they have been a very highly ranked team all season. We have played a lot of teams in common. So the Tiger versus Terps battle should really be one to look out for. It's really going to rely, I think, on the Tiger offense to see if they can get back to the swing of things as they were late in the season.
Yeah, definitely. Notre Dame doesn't score too much. They've been held under 10 goals in many of their games recently, but they do have a good defense, and they have a very good goalie in Scott Rogers, who's big. He's 6'5", 255 pounds, and what Notre Dame tries to do is they try to force opposing offenses to the sides, give them bad angles to shoot, and when you're shooting on a goalie that big from a bad angle, he can take up the entire goal just with his body alone.
Of course.
Very difficult to score like that. But if the Tigers can get past Notre Dame, they'll have another home game, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, and of course Princeton's own goalie, sophomore Tyler Fiorito, is certainly no one to look past after his great performance in the Ivy League tournament, being named player of the tournament.
Right.
The Notre Dame really can't even rely on their own defense. They're going to have to somehow score, and against a defense like Princeton's, it's going to be tough.
Definitely. All right, moving on from men's lacrosse, the women's tennis team will be taking part in its NCAA tournament game tomorrow against Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, the Cavaliers are a tough team, but the Tigers played them earlier in the season in a sort of an odd match, as we talked about last week. Split 4-4 in singles, but they'll be excited to play. They'll be playing at Virginia, but really there's no way of telling. The Tigers are ranked 32nd and the Cavaliers 27th.
Right.
So they're very close
matchup.
But both towards the upper ranks of the nation. So it'll be a good one to watch, and there's a good chance the Tigers could easily pull it out.
Definitely. Princeton has had a couple of weeks now to rest, so they should all be in tip-top shape, and we'll let you know what happens in this one later on. Finally, the United States national men's soccer team will be training on campus in a little bit over a week. You won't be allowed to watch, nor will most of us, but you will notice a few things interesting around campus, a little bit different in the Poe Field area. Gabe, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the team has its own security company that it always travels with. But in addition to that, it has hired a private company to make sure that really no one gets to see anything of them. You know, they'll be training from the 17th to the 23rd in Roberts Field.
Right.
In the stadium, sorry. And they're really making sure that no one will even be able to see their training, and that includes, you know, posting up on Poe Field or in the surrounding area. So while there may be a buzz and you may be seeing reporters from all over the place on campus, it will be tough to catch a glimpse of the players, and it certainly will be tough to see them playing at all unless you want to be running around Poe Field all day.
Right. Well, that's all we got for you this week. We'll let you know how things go with all these teams in the coming weeks. Thank you for joining this week's edition of On the Prowl, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.